Well, I'm in the shadow here of the San Damiano cross, in the presence of our good and gracious God. I'm also in front of just some beautiful faces, also in the presence of my God. On this Sunday, where we celebrate the gospel reading of the wise virgins, help us to make sure we are prepared, our backpacks are full, not only for what we can know we are about, but perhaps what we can't necessarily anticipate. You fill us with oil so that the light burns not only in our candles, but from deep within our hearts. As we are aware of the needs of our world today, help us to be peacemakers, following in the footprints of your Francis and Claire, and also of our Lord Jesus Christ. Help us to know that every relationship is more important than the topic or issue or political party that we belong to, so that in all that we say and do, we may continually give you praise and honor and help repair the building of our God. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Smee. All right, so we're just going to break that. We're going to change things up a little bit from the schedule. We were discussing earlier to do the photos and the poems people wrote beforehand, and that's what we'll start with. This beautiful poem, this beautiful photo, was from my beautiful cousin Bernadette during her walk around walk around the lake. Is that Congers Lake? Is that the name of the lake? Congers?
Congers Lake.
That's right, Congers Lake.
Okay. This one was taken from Peter, my cousin Peter, and his caption was, "I took some pictures today walking around the lake, but decided to use this one I took in the spring." I don't think the group will understand this one, but I think we now do get that one.
Very good.
Susan Grogan Fowler did this picture. Oh, Sandra, I'm sorry if I don't get your name right. Sandra Ainsworth Sweetlake. She wrote, "Colors are fading, but not all of them." So the colors are fading there, but there she got one nice one. Edna, you were busy today. Edna sent this one. This is her one of my favorite spots. And this is in Scheckelhoff Park in Tiffin. And then she added a few more of her prayer spots. A number of them involve tops of trees.
The tops of trees ones come from Stella Majors. She had sent them to me first.
Oh, okay. Now, is that hers as well?
Yes, that is.
And some more tops. Patricia Miller sent this one. Carol Busi, this hill of crosses is in Lithuania. And this is the Amber Museum in Latvia.
Wow.
Beautiful. Arvid Johnson, there is a nature preserve park near my house with a little lake that I like to walk with my dog. It's not heavily used other than by migrating geese, so it's quiet and peaceful. At least my dog likes to play with the geese.
Never heard of geese?
Or tries to play with the geese. This one's from Lynette Dobbs. Let me get with it. And Lynette said, may seem weird for beauty, but my walk took me to these roots and I sat pondering the beauty of the history that comes with age. Perhaps because I spent a lot of time with those who are broken or with the elderly, just as the wrinkle lines or worn faces of people reveal a beauty, these roots do the same. So much has happened to them over the decades. What stories they could tell if they could talk. This one was from Gemma Fernbert in Fenbert, and Gemma said, "How far I have traveled these 80-some years, next bend in the road, never very clear, blinded by uncertainty, yet trusting the new day. Companions on the journey, what can I say? We walk together, following the way." Gemma, beautiful. This was from Romana Pfeiffer, and she entitled this one Grace. Michael Bryan, Where I Would Like to Walk. Is that Ireland? I mean, or is that like Oregon?
That's Cliffs of Moher in Ireland.
I'd like to walk there too.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Got to walk there last year, but probably be a long time before I see it again.
Wow, it's beautiful, huh? These are trees in the woods at the St. Francis campus, Tiffin, from Veronica Nowakowski. And then that's the San Damiano crucifix made in Assisi by Rossi, and that's also by Veronica. This is Kathy Doyle's picture. This is my picture. This was down by the down on a nature walk Father John and I took today, and that's a babbling brook right off the nature walk. Sister Pat Francis, Greg, here's a picture of my prayer spot today, St. Francis Convent Cemetery, Tiffin, Ohio. Truly a beautiful day. This is Denise Clare. Something beautiful at the end of my walk and also the beginning as the gazebo was in my yard. Bonus pictures of me ringing the bell at Poggio Bastone. Martha Herrera. Martha wrote, "The soul is the receptor of beauty. Do not let the world around you blind you to the wondrous beauty that surrounds you. Look deep into your soul and allow your soul to guide you to the vast beauty that exists all around you. Your soul looks deeper than our eyes can see." And that's a picture from Martha as well. This is from Patricia R. "I listened to my body today and rested at home. I am grateful every day for the gift of living here. This is the fall view from my sacred space." This one is also from Patricia. Now this one's from Kathy Trawick. Now, Kathy, you wrote a poem as well, right? So, but let me read what you wrote for this this painting. "This painting was given to me by my husband on his birthday the year after he died. It was my gift of healing from God after walking with him through cancer and bone marrow transplant. It truly bridged heaven and earth for me. God used this painting to set me on an amazing pilgrimage to heal my soul. This artist has been truly the instrument with his work. I pray with this painting often. She has had several names over the last 16 years, and my perception of her has evolved as I have grown and changed. As a potter, I treasure times when the master touches my soul. with her and leads me in directions I could never imagine into the depths of my soul. I truly have experienced God's healing, as Father Quigley said, through beauty, especially in his creation and in art. Picasso said, art washes away the dust of everyday life from the soul. It could as easily be said beauty does the same. Removing the dust helps me see the beauty around me and feeds my soul with gratitude, peace, and joy. Catherine, that's really beautiful. This was from Michael Dobbs. Michael wrote, when I walk through the woods and have my camera with me, I am always looking for different things to take a photo of. And I was hiking, I came across this piece of moss hanging from a pine. I was drawn to take a photo of it. As I looked at it and cleared my mind to view its beauty, I began to see the shape of a person in robes. I see that too. I also felt a presence in that location. I think I will go back to meditate for a little longer. I also included another photo that I took that reminds me of a beautiful place I like to walk to help clear my mind. This is a lake about 6 miles from my house. And there's the lake. Sharon, you sent a picture of the monk, praying monk rock. I believe that's probably in Arizona, right? Is that by Camel Mountain?
Exactly. It's the view from the Franciscan Renewal Center.
And that right there is the monk, I take it. The kneeling monk? Or is the whole thing the monk?
No, you had it right the first time. As the clouds move and as the sun moves, he takes on a 3-dimensional form and he actually begins to develop hair. It's quite a rock.
That's great. That's great. This one's from Christina Martinez, and she writes, this is not just an opportunity to share a Navy flag. It's part of the discussion. An absolute favorite sound is the flag snapping in the wind. It takes me right back to sailing days with the Navy, a feeling that can't be touched. And she says that's a discussion topic. Juan, her husband, really enjoys the sound of the flag too. Juan and Christina journeyed with us to Assisi as part of the military pilgrimage last year. Jessica Lair said, I was not able to walk today. My cats help keep my sacred space. This was from, I think this is from Jenny Hammond. Yes. And this one's from Nora Samigo. Nora is a friend of my cousins, Peter and Bernadette. And this is from Joanna Castilla. And this one came in a little late. It was from, I'm sorry, Lena. This was from Lena.
Yeah, I just want to share what I thought this was too late to send in, but as I stared at these milkweed seeds and I thought about the journey that they take, it reminded me of wandering with a purpose, to go out and to spread milkweed. But, I think there was a beautiful analogy in my mind of evangelization in the pilgrimage. So thank you for helping me see the beauty in that.
I'd like to go back to this painting because the poem came in late, and this is from Kathy. I have been working on hearing this. I'm sorry it's late. Hope you get it. Beauty. Lord, your face is more than mortal eyes can see. So you created a mosaic of beauty just for me. Each piece a special gift to discover, a creation unique, a sister or brother. A lover's bridge between heaven and earth to fill lost souls with love, healing, peace, and rebirth. My only regret, Kathy, is the other ones I have printed out, and I regret that I don't have yours printed out so others can see it. This poem comes from Mark Costa. Our physical body senses the world. Our emotional body responds to the stimulus. Our mental body begins to understand it. Our spiritual body integrates it into our whole being. Healing is our process of regaining and maintaining balance in our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions. It is a journey of making ourselves whole. It's the mention to be holy. As we open ourselves to the world's healing beauty, let us relax, let go, release, and surrender to it. Sense it, respond to it, feel it, and become part of it. This is from Robert Fallon, another poem. Robert wrote The Blessing Tree. I climbed a mountain with my mind, not knowing what I saw, a puzzle piece of truth, perhaps the face of God or not. With God's perspective, I looked down, noting trees and plants around, and learned that I have eyes to see the darkness still surrounding me. So stepping closer, I focused in on just the trees and arrogance, and learned that down the hill I found my eyes and some intelligence. Another step, and I discerned the oak tree's strong-willed foliage and classified it happily with eyes and brain and knowledge. But looking at my feet, I fell, distracted from my duty, my maple crimson, gold, magenta, backlit yellow's beauty, knocked down into a hidden corpse of only Japanese maple. I added ears and nose to eyes I found inside old memories. I heard my mother's lullabies, and sensing how my swollen eyes, I sat quiet as I was able. One tree now is all I saw, a gossamer web glowed bright. Between its leafy filigree, exotic dances is shared with me. We danced into the night. This Japanese maple I call by name. It rhymes with love and attention. Her scent, her fingers, hair, and voice beyond all comprehension. Beyond my eyes, below the hill, I finally found my goal. Love and attention. Let fall the scales for beauty, self, and soul. Of Robert Fallon, November 8th, 2020. This is from Beatrice Sanford. This is just a reflection that she had come up with. Francis was drawn to mountains and music according to Father Conrad. As we seeking to be closer to God on the mountains, how are we seeking to be closer to God on the mountains? Perhaps it is the diversity of the plants and creatures as we ascend. The slow and deliberate walk will reveal much the beauty created by God to feed our soul. It has been said that music soothes the soul. It can be a beautiful composition or the sound of crickets or bird song. Music lifts our mood and enhances our celebrations. Psalm 98:4 encourages us to make a joyful noise to the Lord. And last but not least, Joanita's Soul and Beauty. Father Conrad said, our soul, deep within us, is the source of beauty and the receptor of beauty. Pilgrims, open, attentive, responsive, we absorb beauty into the wellspring of beauty already within us, so that we can treasure it and give it back to the world. As the Talmud says, what comes from the heart enters the heart. I'd just like to thank everybody for the beautiful pictures, the poems, and everything that you sent in. Love what you sent in, and I love the fact that we can share such beauty with one another as part of this. But fittingly, this transitions well because Conrad is going to talk a little bit more about pilgrimage and in particular his own pilgrimage as a Navy chaplain. His pilgrimage as a Navy chaplain and beyond. Conrad, you got that? You might
Thank
be
you,
on.
everybody. It's Veterans Week, and I think I'm very impressed at how people are responding to what the veterans are going through and what they're encountering. Tuesday is Marine Corps birthday. It's a holy day for all of us who have been with our Marines. So happy birthday there, Devil Dogs. And of course, Veterans Day the following day, which also was a feast of St. Martin of Tours. And I don't know if you know anything about Martin of Tours. He's a special patron for the Navy chaplains. Martin of Tours, I'll hazard a guess, 4th century, was in the military. Tours, France, I believe, Gaul. And the story is he was fascinated with Christianity and joined the RCIA program, but he wasn't baptized yet. So he had a patrol duty one evening, and he's on this horse riding around, and all of a sudden he sees a homeless man shivering in the cold. So Martin instinctively jumps off the horse, takes his sword, cuts his cloak in half, gives half to the man sitting there in the snow, and gets back on his horse. Looks over his shoulder, and the man's gone. That night he has a dream, and all of a sudden it's Christ that appears to him wrapped in his half cloak. And this says, Martin the catechumen has clothed me with his mercy. And the story goes that when Martin did die, whatever happened to the other half of that cloak, and it was used as a relic, but I think the generals would take it with them into battle. And I think a word for cloak in Spanish is capella, and the word for chaplain is capayan. And hence the chaplains look at that connection with Martin of Tours is going into harm's way with their colleagues, the military. But again, as you probably know, that we are not armed bearers. We are defenseless. And even when we have these manifests, these lists, when they list if you're a rifle or pistol, the chaplain always has a big U after his name, which means unarmed. And it kind of like underlines who we are. I joined the Navy back in 1987. I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I knew the story of Martin of Tours, but I wasn't a militarist. And I'm a very big community man. Life was jello and pudding for me, but then I'm a runner. And of course, I run all the time, and I was getting ready for the Milwaukee Marathon, ran across the city of Milwaukee to the south side, and lo and behold, there was the Army, not the Army, it was the Marine Corps and the Navy Reserve Center. And curiosity led me in just to use their washroom. And so when I asked the attendant there, the Marine, I said, "Where's your washroom?" He said, "Well, sir, all due respect, the head is down the passageway, and look at the picture on the bulkhead at the right." I had no idea what he was talking about. It was all jargon, but they were drilling, which means they were practicing on the parade deck for a ceremony. I watched with intrigue, and I had no interest, except when one of the officers walked up to me and asked me who I was, and just told him I was just passing by. I said, "Do you want to talk for a little bit?" And I don't know why I said yes. No such thing as coincidence. And sat down and ran back to where I was in inner city Milwaukee with an application for the Navy in my hand. I know Christina and Juan would like to hear that. But again, I walked in there just to use their washroom, came out a sailor. God works in very different ways, and used my running in that aspect. And so what began was 22 years of Navy, but again, I was assigned to the Marine Corps. The Navy is the umbrella, and I have to be careful here because the Marines will get me for this, but the Marines are attached to the Department of the Navy. And that means that as a Navy chaplain, I can serve as a chaplain in the Ship and Shore Navy, the Total Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and even the Merchant Marine. So there was a variety of experiences. And for me, I would have to say, along with my Navy colleagues in the audience, it was an odyssey. Flags flapping in the wind, the sound of the bells and ships and whistles. There was something in that every soldier, every airman, every sailor, every Marine has ingrained into their blood. There's these new billboards out, if you've seen on your highways about the Marine Corps. There's a sense of belonging. That's the newest one out now. You may have seen it. And there's something to that. And as a friar going into the Navy, got some opposition from the friars saying, why are you going into a military organization? We're non-combatants. And all I said was, the gospel has to be preached, and this is a risk, and you can't justify risks. So I went in, and I'll tell you, it was beyond my imagination. I had tours I was in all 4 Marine divisions. I didn't plan it. I just went where they told me. And of course, I had different Navy tours, a total of 10 different tours. And the most memorable was, well, they all were memorable, like, apples and oranges. But I think when I got my orders to 29 Palms, to 7th Marine Division, and they were already coming back from Iraq and Desert Storm and so forth. And I figured, well, I'm not going to be in any danger of going anywhere until when I arrived and I found out that we were going back. And the task at hand was retake a city called Fallujah. My mother was not too happy. She told me when I joined, I said, are you sure you're okay with this? She said, what if they send you someplace? I had 2 brothers. One was a Marine, one was a sailor, and they were in peacetime. So they kind of lucked out. I was safe. I was going to the friars. So there'd be no opportunity for any type of conflict until I heard the call of Martin of Tours. And I kind of felt it was almost like in the cards. Hard to explain. So when I went to 29 Palms, I told her that we're just going for maneuvers. But that's how she understood it. And a long story short, we did go into Fallujah. We were told to stay, we were going to go for 6 months, but it turned out to be 13. And the COVID, as I talked to other veterans, they concur, COVID is like one long deployment. They tell you, we'll have this vaccine in 6 or 7 months. And so far it's been a year and we haven't had anything yet. And they keep extending you. And I think it's almost like we who have been deployed go into automatic pilot with this and say, this sounds very, very familiar. But anyway, the Battle of Fallujah started today. November the 8th. This is not coincidental. It happened at 1930. I remember it clearly. I thought to myself, it was the Feast of Duns Scotus. There I was, always aware of what's happening in the Franciscan world. By the way, I didn't realize it was today until I mentioned it now. And this is something this is part of my life. Anyway, it lasted, I was there when it was happening. It was just surreal. I don't want to go too deep into it. I don't think I can do that right now, except I perdured since there were 15 chaplains and I was a supervisory chaplain at the time, I was the only Catholic priest. To this day, I don't understand how there was only one Catholic priest. 14 of my chaplains were evangelicals. And when a Marine went down, they called for the Catholic priest if he was Catholic. So I had to go what they call under the wire, the different areas. And I think I was fearless. There was something that would go into automatic pilot that I didn't understand. But some of my chaplains, and our assistants were called RPs, religious program specialists, and they were scared. A couple really got tightened up, but I just kind of I took their place, and I just felt it was I didn't realize where I was, but as time went on, November, December, and then January, and it was this constant. You never know. You ever see those movies from Vietnam with all those explosions and people running through? That's what it was like. And there was one part during that opportunity where I said, I don't think I'm coming home. I just left it at that. Well, then, I told Greg I'll be very fast with this one, but then I got a Red Cross message that my mother, who was worried about me, was on life support. And they wanted me to come home to make the decision about the life support. It happens, it's just, it's part of the connection. So when I had to go through, that was an ordeal, getting a Humvee through a battlefield, getting on a helicopter with people shooting at you, going home 38 hours to get right to the hospital, and then making another decision of life and death. This is now, I've been, again, battle is something, and those of you who've been there or heard stories about it, it's, all I can say to me, it was surreal. My whole anchor was, thank you, John Quigley, was Francis of Assisi and Calistrata. Calistrata is the battle where Francis was taken prisoner. I was obsessed by that. And when I got to the hospital, I stayed with my mother all through the night. She was completely not conscious, although I think she knew I was there. We made the decision. She died the next day. The funeral proceeded, and then I went back. And you wonder, is that strength or is that grace or what is it? But I'm gonna go a little bit faster now. That happened in January of 2005, and then our regiment came back in March. So I came back with the other. We got to Kuwait, and there was a United Airlines chartered to pick us up. Remember, the stewardesses were there. They had red, white, and blue balloons. It just seemed, you're coming from a battlefield, living in these conditions, and you're going back into civilization, and it just seemed different. So we got home, got to March Air Force Base in Riverside, California. I believe that's where it's at. And then they had vans for the officers. I got on the bus with the Marines. So the colonel says, "Where's father? Where's father?" He says, "Get him in the van here." So I had to go back with the colonel, and we went back east about 120 miles from Riverside, California. If you can picture this, back to 29 Palms. But as we got closer to 29 Palms, 30 miles from it, I just tapped the driver on the shoulder. I said, "Can you let me out here?" He said, "Well, sir, it's the highway." I said, "No, it's not. It's on the corner." And I was renting a house about half mile down. All I had was my sea bag with me. And he says, "We can't do it." I said, "Please." So they stopped the van. Colonel said it was all right. I took my sea bag over my shoulder, just walked home. What did I do? Closed the blinds and sat there for about 4 days and just thought. And, Francis was in my mind. My mother was already, deceased. It was a beautiful funeral, and I think I think she'd be very proud. But what happens was you come with this realization that you almost want to go back. It's ironic that you miss the intensity of combat. And so I went back to the base, and I finished my tour there. I was very straight, square jawed, the whole thing. You kept going forward. And my second orders were to Beaufort, South Carolina to rest up. I got to Beaufort, South Carolina. I was promoted to a higher position. I didn't want it, but they said, you got to go to 3rd Marine Division, Okinawa. I'm telling you that because that's where I got my first Harley. And I'm not a motorcycle type of guy, but I wanted to continue that intensity of combat. Long story short, I go back to 29 Palms, I retire, and then I didn't know what to do. I had no place to go. You might say, well, you had the friary, but the friars were afraid of me. And what did they tell me? They don't know, the provincial told me, he says, they don't know how to talk to you. I said, why? They just see you're different. And so this different, is it a good different or is it a bad different? And so when I did come to Viterbo, a couple of friars joined me, and then I realized something was wrong. And I start realizing this is what they call about the wounds of war. It's very hard to explain. Everyone knows about it. And then I wanted to find out. I went to Toma, Wisconsin, to the VA to get evaluated. And they say you have the PTSD and so forth. But it's called wounds. And there is a book out called The 1,000 Faces of a Hero that Greg pointed out to me. And it talks about, Joseph Campbell talks about these World War II people coming home. They were different than us. They didn't have chartered United Airlines. They floated back. There was some processing going back in World War II. Nonetheless, they had these wounds. And Joseph Campbell says these 5 things. Number 1, why did I go to the military? Number 1, I heard the call to adventure. You hear these billboards. You see the sailor standing on the dock with, looking into the far sea. They say, join the Navy and see the world. Only 3/4 of it's water when you start sailing. So it's the call to adventure. Number 2, you get all excited. You face reality. You meet your drill instructor. Say, hey, where's all the knights in shining armor? Number 3, there's a reconciliation with a tomb. TOMB, with death. I felt that in Fallujah. I didn't think I was coming home. I realized destiny. Number 4, there's the return home. And number 5 is where we're at right now. What do you do with this? Francis comes in. He was confused, like John said. I love John's presentation today. He was talking and I was like trembling in my seat here, and I was thinking, wondering, why did Jesus, when he rose from the dead, why was he always showing the disciples his wounds? Why was he always pointing them out? To show solidarity? To show a sense that there's healing? That he is bearing what it's a taking on of something that humanity is also bearing. So that's where, you feel what they call in some psychology, they call this a soul loss. And that's why I go back to the first thing I said, where the soul is a receptor of beauty, something got marred, and now I'm trying to get my body catching up with my soul again. And the only way that Francis found it, say what you will about Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, that movie that came out back in the 70s, nobody liked it. It was too flowery. But watch the opening scene again when he comes back from war. I started crying. Or that statue you saw with the snow on it. I was sitting there in the seas a couple of years ago and just kind of gazing at the statue. I was in my habit. I had sunglasses on, and I was crying. The look on Francis's face was what I felt when I told that Marine to drop me off with my sea bag. And he was just coming home. And I said to people all the while, they couldn't figure out why I was saying it. I got no place to go. Until, I walked the Camino. The pilgrimage opened up something to me. Well, we're not all healed yet. We're walking together. And then one lady told me when I was halfway through the Camino, she looked at me and she says, Padre, she was saying in broken Spanish and English, where did you start from? And I got startled. I said, well, I started back in France. I found out that people don't do that. They cheat. They start closer to Santiago. She says, you're doing the entire Camino? I said, see. She says, pray for me. And she says, remember, you're walking in the footsteps of centuries of people. And now they'll be walking in yours. When she said that, something illuminated in my mind. I was still hurting. I couldn't figure out things. I still can't figure things out now. But I remembered what someone told me about Francis walking the Camino. Now I wonder why he did it. And then I could have hugged John Quigley again. John, you're my new icon. You know, when he said, maybe if Francis had not come back or had not gone to war and come back, as Marines would say, messed up, maybe we would not have had the Francis we know today. I'm wondering about that because, as the friars tell me, I'm different. I mean, I don't know. I feel solidarity with the homeless. What's going on? You know, why do I want to hang out with people that I want to learn from? I want to learn so much. My mind is, and people will say, well, why are you doing this? Because I say, if not now, when? And somehow, I think Greg tells me about Moody's book about the healing of memories and all that, that sometimes when bad things happen, you look at what has happened, what has been going on in your life. I don't think I could have not attained it without pilgrimage, without the Camino. And now with the military pilgrimage and going into Assisi and so forth. Well, I mean, I'm going to stop right there, but I'm kind of spooked out. I didn't realize today was the anniversary of the beginning of Fallujah. Now, that's kind of heavy for me. But again, not maybe, God has got me to talk about it today. And I don't know, that's part of the healing. But again, we're all, I think I'm watching Francis very closely. And I'll stop right there.
Conrad, perhaps, somebody who's traveled with me on pilgrimage a few times has said a number of times, there's no such thing as coincidence. It's all providential. And it seems to be coming true here in terms of the timing of this. Hey, I just want to say it's really, I'm always just so humbled and proud to journey with you the way we're able to journey together. And thank you for sharing.
Well,
there's one piece I wonder if you could just share a little bit with people. And if you can, great. If you can't, then just tell me to shut up and move on. And I understand. But, when you came back the first time from pilgrimage, when you came back the first time from Assisi, you started getting in touch and talking when we were at our planning meeting in Arizona afterwards. You were talking, and Father John Cella asked you, you started getting in touch with some of the PTSD. It was just starting to surface for you, actually, I think. And Father John Cella asked you, do you think your pilgrimage to Assisi has played a role in that? Can you speak a little bit to that in terms of what's your sense of that?
It surfaced. It surfaced more, which I needed to have done. And I think when we talked about Callistrata, people were not really, we were talking about Francis was captured in battle on this plain near Assisi, like Father John Quigley said, near Perugia. And when it kind of like I was seeing myself in that situation and what Francis did with it. Remember the fifth part of Campbell. You come back home, but what do you do with this? A lot of veterans go inward. Francis went outward. How he did this is the amazement of this man that we're still looking at 800 years later. So much so a Pope takes his name after him to heal creation. And now with his latest, Fratelli Tutti, it's all about solidarity. So yes, I think the pilgrimage to Assisi, and when we brought veterans, remember those homeless guys from Milwaukee that we had? Someone subsidized their coming. And there was one guy in Milwaukee who that came for this pilgrimage. I couldn't remember who he was. And at the very end of the pilgrimage, when we're all talking about what we learned about it, he thanked everybody. He said, Father Ski, that's what he called me. We met before. And I said, where? He said, we met in Fallujah. He said, I leaned on your shoulder then. I'm leaning on you again now. And I'm saying, you know, there's something going on. You know, and I think Assisi, the pilgrimage for the veteran and for the non-veteran, for anybody, I think France and Claire, Claire was a mighty force that kept the charism for Francis alive and burning, like Shmi said about the virgins with the burning torches. You know, it's just, it's poetry in motion. It's music in mountain. It's you know, it's something I think the veterans, and I'm using that because this is what this week is all about. And then, golly gee, you know, November the 8th. I don't know, I can keep on going on and on, but yes.
But I think one of the things you glossed over that you might want to just expound upon a little bit is you're working in the warming center now in La Crosse, which is a homeless shelter. They come they can warm up, they can get an evening a bed for the evening, and then you go in and you work. There's a couple guys that you particularly work with in the mornings to help set them up, huh?
Yeah, well, this like a janitor. It's just something that there's another document came out with the friars about. It's called Ite Nuntiate. Is go and out when Mary Magdalene sees Jesus, and Jesus tells her, "Go announce to my brothers." And it's encouraging the friars not to just work with the homeless, to live among them. Pope Francis is the same thing, and I think that I don't know. I can't see myself apart from that at all. And I think the realization came, as John pointed out, that Francis went to the lepers. That's where I belong. I had no place to go. Now I know where to go. You know.
I also think one of the things that struck me is when John, the talk you gave today about Francis and PTSD is really sunk deep for me as well. And one of the things being is that when Jesus is thrown out of the temple, when he reads the scroll from Isaiah and he's taken to the brow of the hill, he becomes a pilgrim then, and he becomes a wanderer. And Francis as well, is when he comes back, but it struck me, Conrad, is when you came back and your sense of home had been uprooted, that you yourself have been a pilgrim since retiring and since coming back from Fallujah as well.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
If I can add, Conrad does draw all of us just the way St. Francis did. Those of us that have severe flashbacks were drawn to him, and it's what we did in combat. Conrad knows. It's like telling somebody else that I was jaywalking. It allows me to confess the things I need to confess and to accept the forgiveness of Christ. He had to go through these things so that others could heal.
Sharon, thank you for sharing.
Hey, Sharon.
But Conrad, you are the if this was a movie, you are the lead actor, and we are your supporting cast. Kidding aside, it's been really truly a gift from God to journey with you, and what you bring to the pilgrimages and what you bring to other veterans and what you continue to bring to the La Crosse and Viterbo community.
Greg, Joanita has a remark here. I think she's been struggling to say something.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, Conrad, you said, why did Jesus keep showing his wounds? You showed yours tonight. And I'm very grateful for your sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Well said.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Conrad.
Yeah.